I'd like to order some food for delivery. It's chow time.
Sorry.
Video review. I'm better than you. We're better than Siskel and Ebert too. Coming at you. You gotta dig it.
Just hit record. Okay. So, by the way, I haven't even finished the tightrope notes, but that I can do. I have them all. I just have to transcribe them.
Today we're behind the scenes at CHOWTIME Movie Review, where we have the esteemed Joe Malone.
Or is it CHOWTIME Video Review?
Or is it CHOWTIME Video Review? You never know which way you're going to go with CHOWTIME. When it's chow time, it's fun time. And when it's fun time, we're drinking. We're not stinking, but we're drinking. And as for our lives, it's better with wives. So many wives. I wish I had 7 wives. I only have 1. Sometimes it seems like more than 1. The fun wife, the grouchy wife, the wife with the big gazooms, all great wives. You know, for Stepford wives, you start wondering about Stepford lives. You know, like, can I clone myself and have the other Tom take all the shit, you know, for people and stuff like that? I just want to have the fun. And why can't I be a deviant? All these other guys, you know, like, apparently...
I'd replace the Y's, the VES, with NE, wine. That's what helps you get by as well.
No whining over here, folks.
Mm-hmm. So...
hey, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, man.
Good to see you.
Welcome back. Okay.
We're rolling.
So, Joe, do you happen to know what time it is?
I've heard rumors that it's chow time! Movie or video review?
Movie review.
Movie review, number 10.
We also review food.
And eat it.
Everything's vintage, including your movie reviewers.
I need Hooter. It's chow time!
Movie review.
Used to be CHOWTIME Video Review. Sorry, that's not PC.
So welcome to CHOWTIME Movie Review.
Number 10.
Number 10 here in the year 2025 with your hosts,
The Joje!
Joe Malone and Tom Wilson.
And I'm not Joe alone.
We have a special bond. Joe and I, even though you can obviously tell looking at the camera that we're both about in our 30s, it looks, we've actually known each other for 50 years.
It's strange that way.
Yeah, we met in 1975. It's 2025. Joe and I share...
Was that 3rd grade?
Yes, it was.
8? Were we both 8?
Yes, we met in February 1975. Joe and I were both 8 years old. Joe was the first person I was introduced to.
Well, you were almost 9. But go ahead.
Joe was the first person I was introduced to when I came to the 3rd grade class in the middle semester. They said, Tommy Wilson, we want to introduce you to Joey Malone. and his back was turned. He was hanging up his coat, and he turned around with a huge grin, and we've been big buddies ever since.
Who introduced us? Mrs. Pennant? Or
Yeah.
Marsha Wilson?
It was the teacher, I believe. I think they had already told my mother to leave.
But I remember her by the chain link fence at first. Like I remember that.
It was only a misunderstanding, the whole arrest. But Joe and I, we've known each other forever, and we share a lifelong passion for movies.
That's fair. And Hooter. I mean,
so tonight we are going to review 3 films. And
what's the first film, brother?
The first one is Joe recommended this, and to be honest, it was a pretty cool choice because it's called The Complete Unknown. It is a 2024 film. Joe, who's the director?
James Mangold.
Interesting. Is he known for anything else? I'm a little out of touch sometimes.
His first film was Heavy, 1995 with Liv Tyler. His second film was 1997's Copland, which I will mention was filmed in Fort Lee, Edgewater, and Leonia, New Jersey, where TW and I are from.
Hey, I respect Copland. I didn't know that.
You like? I mean, okay.
It's okay.
He's Copland.
It's a decent watch. Okay.
He did a walk the line.
Really?
Yeah.
So this director has a history of doing movies about music superstars.
At least with Walk the Line.
Okay, and Walk the Line was about
the great Johnny Cash, who appears in
Johnny
A Complete Unknown, right?
So we've got A Complete Unknown, and that is the story of
Bob Dylan. An early, more in America and blah blah blah.
So
early Bob Dylan.
So we've got A Complete Unknown.
And the second film is The Friends of Eddie Coyle, 1973, directed by Peter Yates.
Starring
Robert Mitchum, who was then 51 years... he was actually 57 years old, 1 year younger than us in real life.
Interesting.
Although in the movie he's playing a 51-year-old.
Keep in mind that Joe and I look like we're in our mid-30s. Anything else is bad lighting, and maybe we had some bad food. Indigestion.
Melted butter.
So... The 1973 film, The Friends of Eddie Coyle, gritty, and it takes place in the Boston area. Now, Joe, what is the third and final film that we are going to direct today? I mean, not review today.
We'll review.
Sorry, folks.
We'll review direct with our review.
Yes.
It's 1984's Tightrope, starring Clint Eastwood.
And who was that interesting co-star? Genevieve Bujold? Is that her name?
I don't think so. She was in Coma, and she's a French actress.
But I think that is the woman that is his thing.
Right.
If not, hey, it'll be a surprise to all of us.
It's directed by the writer of Escape from Alcatraz, also starring Clint Eastwood, 1979, 5 years before. It's a very interesting film, which we're going to talk about. A true crime drama. It's a big star, but you're right. One of the great things about this film, and yes, I like this film. I'm going to go into the review right now, but it's a personal story about this guy from Minnesota coming out to New York City,
right?
In a romantic story with 2 girlfriends along the way.
True.
With this idealism, but it also becomes a totally American, if not worldwide, history.
Correct.
Because how history changing he ended up being. But it's about Bob Dylan's first few years when he came to New York City, excuse me, through 1965.
So when does he first appear in New York on the scene? Is it 1961?
Correct.
Okay. Very interesting. So I decided to look at the film, once again, A Complete Unknown, as Joe... I wanted to look at it as a documentary and learn more about Bob Dylan, but I ended up going with the film as kind of like a rock and roll fantasy for me.
Although it's reality.
Well, there's some things that they did a little bit of a creative license with, depending on what scenes you're talking about. Well, I went into Google and looked up just about every single scene in the movie, folks. And some of it is romanticized. There never actually was a time that Woody Guthrie and Bob Dylan and Bob Seger were all together at the same time.
Bob did visit him.
Right.
Maybe not
so they just, they just gently...
Dramatic license.
They use dramatic license, exactly. But the flavor is there. And... Joe, did you feel that Timothee, the lead actor, became Bob Dylan on the screen? How did that work for you?
Well, I'll say that, and also I want to say about the flavor of the film, what
Right.
you just said. I mean, I thought Timothee Chalamet was fantastic. He was incredible. Very good. He captured Bob's dark side, his contrariness, potential genius, and just a fantastic actor.
Interesting.
I also thought, when you talk about flavor and realism, maybe with Dramatic License Fair,
Right.
one of the best parts of this fantastic film for me was the production design.
Interesting.
Kettle of Fish, Gaslight, Greenwich Village, these rainy, wet streets of Greenwich Village, New York City, all of this stuff, the cars, the vendors, which are very similar today, with the smokes coming out of stacks, I thought was very powerful.
Okay.
And but somehow captured through these montages, these musical montages, this 1960s idealism, which is not here today. This kind of exuberance, and the young are taking over, and there's hope for the future with the young, and so I was very much floored by that. I don't know if it won the Oscar for production design.
Sounds like,
but it should have. I mean, I don't know what else was up against it either.
So the movie is trying to drag you into a place and time, and it sounds like it succeeded for you.
Big time.
You really saw early 1960s New York.
Did you?
Well, I'm gonna
early to mid 60s. It ends in 65.
To be honest,
yeah,
it's a 2-hour and 20-minute film.
It is long.
But for me, it felt like only an hour and 40 minutes. I think that's a
good
compliment.
sign.
It didn't drag. And, it kind of created, like I said, a little bit of a rock and roll fantasy for me. Folks, I'm not going to lie. I went into this movie knowing very little about the personality.
Really? You've been studying Elvis Presley.
Right.
You never got to Dylan?
I came into this movie knowing very little about Bob Dylan. And when the film was over, and yes, sir, I also enjoyed it, I still know very little about Bob Dylan.
Well, I think that's his point. He's inscrutable. He lies in press. I have no idea what was rated R, though.
I don't recall seeing anything.
That's whack.
But in today's hypersensitive world, Joe...
Well, where's the R?
It's
a little
possible.
Drug use? A little...
They showed almost no drug use. They showed,
why was it R? I don't get that.
People are so bent out of shape. It might have been the fact they smoked 160 tobacco cigarettes.
In conclusion...
Joe, on a scale of 0 to 10, you said you liked the film. What do you give this film?
9.
A complete unknown, sorry. He's the man. What is your score?
9.5.
Wow. 9.5.
Right. Yeah. And the joke was the last show, and I was embarrassed that all 3 films, you didn't see the show, you might not remember, I gave all a 9.0. But this one, first of all, I hate to say this about cinema, but I expect less these days. With the Me Too and the PC, and it seems much more of a commercial regime. This film was flawless. I thought the acting across the board was great. Edward Norton, Timothee Chalamet, the guy who plays Johnny Cash. We're going to do a scene where he's drunk in the morning. We're going to show that on this show.
I thought you left town already.
Oh, we loaded out last night. June left for New York with her mama. Pete asked me to stay for the finale today, I couldn't sleep. Just took a drive. Saw the ocean.
Okay.
This yours?
Yeah. Amy, you got a cigarette?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Get out of your way. A guy I knew in the Air Force had a Triumph. Gotta prime it up.
Who played Joan Baez, literally across the board. Albert Grossman, the manager. I thought the acting was fantastic. The production design was great.
Interesting.
The directing I thought was very solid. That's what's carrying it through. Excellent. And it's flawless. It might not reach that thing like Jaws or whatever, where it's now like, whoa, this is going to be in the, stamp of history. But it's a solid 9.5. Tom, what did you feel?
Well, a complete unknown. As I said, I came in, not knowing that much about Dylan. 2 hours and 20 minutes. The film moved quickly for me. It left me wanting more. Because like I said, it only tells the first 5 years of Bob's long career. As I said earlier, I don't learn too much about his personality, but nobody ever does. That's part of the mystique.
Well, that's part of him.
Of being Bob.
He is
Dylan.
an enigma. He continues.
They gave him a strong supporting cast, as Joe said. The actress.
I thought you might hate Edward Norton. I don't know why.
I haven't. We'll covered all the bases. My only issue with Edward Norton is he did a fine job. It's just for me, he didn't look like Bob Seger.
Pete Seeger.
Pete Seeger. I'm so sorry. Pete Seeger. In my mind, my fantasy was they get Jack Black to play that part. Right?
He's too fat. I mean,
morbidly
obese.
You throw the money in front of him, he loses 30 pounds. But it having
like 100.
On a scale of 0 to 10, a complete unknown, I'm going to give this a 7.9, which means I'm not the world's biggest fan like Joe, but it's a good watch. I want to see more. This is not the film to watch, as like a documentary. Like I said, there's a little bit of creative license. It's not the film to watch if you want to learn tons about the inner depths of what makes Bob Dylan. They don't really explain, what inspires his writing.
By the way, Tom, that's a great point. But I'll just say this, because I believe this too. One of the things I really loved about the movie when I gave it a 9.5,
and that
they somehow made available this microcosm where it's a personal chapter of this guy from Minnesota coming to town. It's a very romantic film with the girlfriends. But in the meantime, it becomes this huge, not only American but maybe worldwide chapter because he was such a legend.
It's true. I mean,
so I thought the director handled that incredibly because he made it he kept it as a personal story,
right? But
all this stuff's going on, and at the end, really, it's punk rock. It seems like it's almost a shift to this. Really, that's what really they got upset about him at Newport Folk Festival. It's not just that it was electric. Remember, when you sing, it's electric. They put electric on the thing, on the guitar, acoustic guitar even, for the audience amps. It was because it became punk rock. It became dissonant. And so I thought there was this whole
interesting
punk rock thing.
Rolling.
Hey,
Dave.
what's happening? What's going on?
Well, it's chow time.
Oh, good. Say, Joe, weren't the KINKS mentioned recently?
Yes, in A Complete Unknown, 2024, the latest.
The
My
Bob
man
Dylan
knows
movie.
it. My man knows it. The KINKS are mentioned, and they're revered by Bob Dylan. Did you ever meet Bob?
No, sadly.
I know you were friends with Jimi Hendrix, who loved Bob.
And maybe someday Bob will get lucky and meet Dave.
Oh, how lovely.
Chow time.
Hello, Albert.
She was headed for the ferry. You probably still got time to catch her if you head out now.
Christ,
Bobby, can I have a word?
Turn that down, please.
Where's Pete? He's not in on this?
In on what, exactly?
Posse of purity.
No beer on our own.
There you go. My friend.
All we want to know is what you plan on doing tomorrow, Bobby. If you're going to play the new songs, that's all.
You want me playing the old ones?
All right, let's just cut the crap, Bob. Come on. You're going to be playing noise like this?
And this is the KINKS.
I'm supposed to introduce you, and if you are, just let me know, and we'll get Dick Clark in.
Woohoo! Hear that? You want to get Dick Clark Newport Folk Festival?
I don't know if you noticed. A lot of fucking people. How could I know? I'd rather have 10 faithful than 10,000 groupies. It was the Newport Folk Festival then, Bob, and it still is the Newport Folk Festival. Not the not the Teen Dream, Brill Building, Top 40 British Invasion Festival, a folk festival. Do you remember folk music, Bob?
No, what's that? Maybe you can sing me something.
A day and a night, the KINKS come on. Yeah. And the guy goes, see that? That's noise. He puts it down. He goes, that's noise. And Bob goes, it's like all he has to say is, it's the KINKS. And he says it with such reverence. And I've also read this, that like Paul McCartney and others, they like, you're their favorite band in terms of. So yeah, that was the shout out in the movie.
So the next film that we are going to review today on CHOWTIME Movie Review
Number 10
is a 1973 film called The Friends of Eddie Coyle, starring Robert Mitchum and directed by
Peter Yates.
Folks, here's my review. So, I was expecting a gritty picture with Robert Mitchum. The film is basically about people selling illegal guns. Spoiler alert. I mean, come on, it's the first 5 minutes of the movie.
It's 73. It's
right.
Okay.
So we're selling illegal guns in large quantities, and people are doing bank robberies. So in my mind, I get ready for lots of action, and I'm going to see Robert Mitchum as, probably a badass. The biggest badass since like Cape Fear. You know what I mean? And guess what, folks? Huge disappointment. The Friends of Eddie Coyle, it looks to me, folks, that in real life, Robert may have been dealing with some drinking issues, perhaps some late nights. He went up to the director and he said, look, I'm shot to hell. Can't do any shootouts. Can't do any bank robberies. The entire film.
Would he have that power?
He's Robert Mitchum.
I mean, he did seem hammered in the hockey scene.
Right. He's Robert Mitchum. He said, I'm in such bad shape. I can't do any bank robberies. All I can do is sit around and drink coffee and beer. In all honesty, folks, in the film, The Friends of Eddie Coyle, Robert Mitchum's biggest action scene, and I'm not exaggerating, is when he slowly goes to buy groceries at the grocery store. So I have to say, it's a little disappointing. We see several bank robberies, not so well edited.
Several, too.
Yeah, not that interesting. And he's not there. He's not there. We have a low-life, gun dealer with, bad teeth, but I don't need, an hour and 40 minutes.
Named Jackie Brown.
Interesting. Long and short, it's a relatively convoluted film. One thing that everyone learns pretty quickly is that Eddie Coyle has no friends, right? His friends are all kind of low-lifes, backstabbers. He doesn't have any friends. I gotta be honest, it was very disappointing to me. There's a whole bunch of snotty online movie reviews, your Siskel and Eberts, all these other people, and they're like 4 out of 4 stars. Amazing realistic dialogue. Folks, the movie is a snorer. You do not care if Eddie Coyle lives or dies. He is not a character of interest. You understand what I'm saying?
Wow.
Plus, the entire film is, phony baloney. In the very first scene, the guys got half your guns, but the other half, I think I'm going to be selling to somebody else. He's like, well, I don't think I like that. In real life, you just say, I got your gun. You don't bring up the other half, that there's no reason to do so.
What do you give it, my friend?
On a scale of 0 to 10, The Friends of Eddie Coyle, the best thing about this movie, the title. On a scale of 0 to 10, I'm going to give it a 3.5.
Oh, my God.
Peter Yates in Bullet, which is a more interesting film known for car chases. But here, The Friends of Eddie Coyle, which is filmed on location, is known for park benches.
The thing about this movie, first of all, that I realized, it was incredibly innovative. It was the first of its kind, which had this snappy dialogue, even monologues among criminals before committing crimes, barely committing crimes on film. But with this wonderful dialogue, somewhat very racist at points, that I think turned on, I know this because I Googled it, David Mamet, Quentin Tarantino. So it was the first of its kind on that level alone. Also, as a true crime genre in 1973, it had this early 70s funk soundtrack. It was the first time as they were about to commit bank robberies, etc.
Mm-hmm.
That was totally emulated, and I learned from as a later 58-year-old person now from Quentin Tarantino and Steven Soderbergh. Steven Soderbergh used it in Out of Sight. Quentin Tarantino used it in several movies, including Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. Also, it was apparently innovatively the first movie to use these masks during armed robberies. These different masks, later used in Point Break, Heat, all kinds of movies.
Imitation can be the sincerest form of flattery.
Well, the point is, this is a very innovative movie. It's going to ruin my thing up. But I agree with you, Tom, that there was no action.
It's a talkie. It's a talkie.
And it was almost embarrassing in the sense that this director who made Bullet in '68, here you have these muscle cars in this movie, and I think, oh my God, they're banging up in this one scene we're going to show you with muscle cars, and he doesn't get out of the parking lot. There's no car chase.
Right. It's all they do is pull into parking lots, and they sit around and wait.
So I'm going to put on my ogles now.
What do we do?
Let me think.
It's your party.
We take him.
States Treasury, moving your fucking dead man. Get out of the car and keep your hands in plain sight. Get out. Put your hands on the roof of the car.
You're under arrest for violation of a federal law. Before we ask you any questions, we want you to understand your rights under the Constitution.
I give it an 8.0. I think that it was, there's no action in the movie, which is a big problem. Also, at some points, it was a little nonsensical. But it seems to be the first of its kind. If anyone could tell me something earlier, but this kind of snappy dialogue, monologues among criminals, this strange realism with the early funky tracks and the urban settings, it seemed to really set up and turn on Paul Thomas Anderson, more Quentin Tarantino, Steven Soderbergh. 8.0.
So this is important, folks, because we've got a split review here. Joe, 8 out of 10. He likes the film. Tom,
I really do.
3.5 out of 10. I don't think it's a good movie. So you really need to take a look at this one yourself, folks, and decide. Because, I could be wrong here. This gentleman, he knows he has
right
insight.
or wrong.
It's right. There's no right or wrong. We have different tastes.
Because it's Showtime!
All Dachshunds agree. Chowtime Video Review. It's not just for breakfast anymore. It's 24/7 movie reviews of both vintage and new release films. If you're nothing but a hound dog, come in and watch our movie reviews. Chowtime Movie Review, and you can find it on the Joje channel. That's Joje, and life doesn't get any better than that. So, in the movie Tightrope, what's going on here is we're in New Orleans, in Louisiana.
Correct.
Movie is filmed on location, and they had some fun with it, and it does help the film. Some nice outdoor shots. So we're in New Orleans, and unfortunately, we're dealing with some murders that look to be done by possibly, it's true, we know this right away, he's a sexual pervert and we're dealing with a serial killer. And in this particular film, Clint Eastwood is the hardworking police officer that's got to hunt down the bad guy. But, Joe, he's got to enter the seedy underworld of New Orleans to try to hunt down the serial killer who's killing, for lack of a better term, some are like ladies of the evening, people that go to, kinky clubs, that kind of wild and crazy lifestyle. And as the movie twists along, it's possible that some of the women that Clint Eastwood is getting to know in his own interesting way may possibly be potential victims of this serial killer. So we've got Tightrope.
Detective Block, are the murders connected?
Yes, we believe that the murders are committed by the same killer. The killer is a Caucasian, red typo, about in his mid-40s.
Any suspects?
120,000.
Anything you'd like me to tell the mayor?
Yeah, he's one of them.
Do you investigate many sexual crimes?
Why?
I was wondering if they've had any effect on you.
A cop on the edge. Clint Eastwood. Tightrope.
I enjoyed it, Joe. Tightrope. On a scale of 0 to 10, and like I said, it's a little bit of a dark, kinky film, but it's entertaining, and that's what we want. Tightrope, on a scale of 0 to 10, with decimal points, I am giving this film an 8.3.
Wow.
I liked it. Joe, what did you think of Tightrope?
I like Tightrope. I thought that Clint Eastwood was very courageous in making this, in the sense that it struck me like similar to his Dirty Harry characters and these kind of the tough cop characters, but this time, not with what I call a deficit, but a kink or a dark side, but a consensual, arguably dark side.
He plays a flawed character.
Played out. I don't even know if I'd call it flawed, if it's all consensual, but it's very interesting. And one of the things about this film is there's this light and dark thematics. So he's apparently the primary custody parent of his two daughters, underage daughters.
That's correct.
And yet, and he does that well. He loves his kids. But he also is a homicide detective in New Orleans during a serial killer spree. And, it has that whole side to him. Also in his personal life, as we find out in the movie, there's parallels with this serial killer in town. I thought it was courageous. I liked it too.
Okay.
I thought that, they didn't capture the South and the New Orleans at all with accents. They tried to, and a little bit they did with the Dixieland music and stuff. It apparently was filmed all in the French Quarter and on the Dixie boat and around New Orleans proper. But they didn't, in a way, focus on the culture of that city, this unique American city that's almost like a little slice of Europe in the southern bottom of America. But I liked that it was there. I love that they went for sexual, they weren't afraid. There's nude women, there's sexuality, they went into S&M, they went into homosexuality, alleging to fisting and all these things. And I appreciate
the gang's
that.
all here, folks. What can I say?
The gang bang's all here, folks. And he had the guts. At one point, he comes up and there's a door, someone's coming out, and you think his anus is this big. Like they did that. I looked to see if there's porno actresses, not that I know, unless the name is Seika, but in the closing titles. But they went for all that. Here's where it got middling, or what you call middling. My turn.
Maudlin?
No, middling. You.
I don't remember the
film. You're done.
I'm done, folks, and I don't remember it quite as graphically as he does.
All right, the middling thing would be the direction was rudimentary. Although I love the guys, the writer Escape from Alcatraz. He still hit these beats. It was like light during the day with the family and dark at night. You had this thing where you said you started seeing it and you couldn't even see it. Right?
Half the movie is filmed in the dark, but I thought it was absolutely amazing that there is a Clint Eastwood movie, at least one, in the last 40 years that wasn't directed by Clint himself. So it's very nice that he stood aside for one film.
Well, I mean, he's a great director, starting with Play Misty for me in 1971. But he, most of his movies he did not direct.
His later movies, he starts doing most of them. But he's 95 years old.
Even Gran Torino in 2017. I mean, I see your point. Right. But historically, now he's a 96-year-old. He's directed maybe 20%. Anyway, in conclusion, I liked the movie. I thought it was very interesting because there was a very motif in all the 1980s, and it went to the 1990s, but started there with these cops catching serial killer films. 10 to Midnight, 1983 with Charles Bronson. Manhunter, 1985.
Cop with James Woods.
Right. There's a lot of them.
Right.
And so this is an interesting kind of part of that too. In conclusion, there's flaws with this film, but I did like it.
On a scale of 0 to 10, what's your score?
7.5.
7.5. Clint Eastwood gets dragged into the kinky underworld of New Orleans, and you know what, folks? He kind of likes it.
Wyatt, what's the term? Obese pain. All right, whenever you guys are ready, now remember your line is, I want you to see a statue of an obese man in pain for music.
You gentlemen ready?
Yeah.
Roll camera.
A statue of an obese man in pain for music.
I'm your uncle.
Obese pain.
A statue of obese pain. Now we're going to take a moment to look at some wonderful acting work by Desmond Casteel. He's my nephew. It's chow time.
Pulling 3, is it? You're pulling on this rope here, I see? But you're frozen in time. And this is quite close to you. Are you winning the game of tug of war here? Or perhaps are you losing? Are you about to stumble? Curious. Or if you are winning, then how did you win? Did you perhaps stand in place, give them your weight, work like an anchor, and now you're tugging? Hard to really come up with a conclusion, but it's interesting. Wonder if I can keep the game going. Nah, you're stuck.
Hey, Tom, you mind holding the TV a while? I'm getting sick of this.
No, I refuse to hold the TV. All the pizza.
Look, Tom, I'm sick of this crap. Seriously, just hold the goddamn TV. It's tiring me out.
Fuck you. And the horse you came in on, Palo. This is CHOWTIME video review, and I'm in charge, see?
Okay, it's like 1, 2, 3, chill. A little bit of Nesto, Palo. Here's my intro in stereo.
Look, it's Davies of the KINKS.
Yeah, it's there.
What time is it, Dave?
It's chow time.
It's chow time.
Movie review.
And food reviews.
What do you want? We want more
Chow time.